Hi, and welcome to Family Teacher Teams Part 3. I'm excited and happy to welcome you to this presentation today. Just a reminder, there is a Part 1 and 2 of Family Teacher Teams. If you haven't already watched those, and if you're just here for this one, then welcome. So today, to start with, I just want to talk about some resources that you have for family teacher teams if you're starting it in your classroom or at your school. So to start with, I'm Addie Lee. I'm the assistant principal at Meridian, and I have experience doing family teacher teams as a teacher, as an instructional coach, and then also as an assistant principal. Mike Serbin is the director of the FACE office. Sandra Candler is the supervisor of the FACE office, and she's the supervisor of the community liaisons. And then Janice Raymond, she is a facilitator at the FACE office. She's a retired teacher and a wonderful resource. And then we have Jana Leonard. She's the data and assessments for the FACE office. So the goal for this training is we're going to discuss today basically how to put on a family teacher teams. In the years past, we've had family teacher teams, but we've revamped and kind of rethought about how to put on a family teacher teams at a school level or even a classroom level. So today we're going to discuss ways to prepare and plan for the family teacher teams. In the following presentation, we will talk about how the day of a family teacher teams and what that looks like. Today's presentation is more about how to prep and plan. And then at the very end of all of these trainings, there is a resource page that would be a great place for you to start when you're thinking about planning your own family teacher teams. And just throughout the presentation, you will see our 8 promises on different slides. I really wanted to make sure that we were thinking about and being cognizant about the promises that we are meeting when we are participating in family teacher teams and building relationships with our families. Almost all of these promises are touched on when we are participating in a family teacher teams. So I just wanted to make sure that we hit on that and that you understood why you will see the little promises at the bottom of the slides. It's just to remember and to connect us back to our MVPs. So this part of the presentation is going to be talking about a progression of family teacher teams throughout an entire school year. And just as a reminder, this is just one way to do family teacher teams. It is not a required way to do family teacher teams by any means. But I do want to give a full scope of what a school year would look like doing family teacher teams. And then also talking about prepping and planning. So this would be for a family teacher teams committee at your school or all the way down to planning for teachers specifically. So thinking about the progression of family teacher teams, at Meridian, we decided our goal was to have 3 family teacher teams last year. In the past, we've done 1 family teacher team that was in the fall, and we followed up with conferences, but our biggest goal for last year was to make sure that we got 3 family teacher teams done in the year. So the first family teacher team, we had it at the beginning of September. We wanted it to be after we had iReady Diagnostic 1 finished. So we wanted that data for our teachers to be able to utilize during their family teacher teams. During this family teacher teams, it started off with a student performance. We find that this is a great way to kind of rally and get families into the classrooms. This is we send out a message saying your child is going to do a performance, and then we'd like to be able to build a relationship with you. And the performance we found is really what gets families to come onto campus. After the students have a performance, then there is a harmony or morning circle with the families. So you would meet up, make a circle, and you'll talk about what their hopes and dreams are for their child's future and any other questions you'd like them to share. And then after that, you would do a data chat. And thinking about that data, you would build and create a goal with the families based on their data for their child specifically, really a personalized data for a personalized goal for their child. And then the last thing is that you're going to create and provide a home activity for the families to do. And this home activity should really be one thing that they can really manage and work on at home with their children. And we don't want to overwhelm them with too many things. So the goal at the end of the family teacher teams is that they have awareness about where their child is, and then they also have an activity that they can utilize at home to help with that goal that we set. And then something important to remember about the first family teacher teams in the fall is that it's really nice to be able to follow up during conference time with how they're doing at home with that goal. If there's anything they're struggling with, if there's anything that you can do as a teacher or a school to support them, but really making sure you touch back at conferences on what you talked about at family teacher teams, not only to the data, but the goal and the home activity that you spoke with them about previously. So I have a couple examples for you. So today I have, this is an example of a class performance that you might put on. This is a 4th grade class. And then I also have an example of a piece of the family teacher teams that you could do, which is a data chat with the child and their parent. So this is an example of what a data chat might look like. And you can see that they're talking about his iReady growth.
On year 2 date growth, I got 100. And I grew 26 points. And then first diagnostic I got tested out, and then second grade tested out first, second section. And then early tested out, second, and early third. I'm proud of you.
So once you've done the first family teacher teams and retouched back at conferences, you can think about implementing a second family teacher team. So at our school, we decided that the second family teacher team would be after the second diagnostic so that we could show the family's growth that the students have achieved from the first family teacher teams till now. And the day is set up very similarly. We invite the parents and the families to school with a performance again. We have a harmony circle, and we will look at the growth data of the same data point that we looked at the first family teacher teams. And something to really think about it for us, it was important to us to do it before report cards came out in the trimester 2 report cards, because we really didn't want to focus on the report card itself. We wanted to focus on progress and growth that students were making. Another really cool part of the second family teacher teams is we wanted to implement the hopes and dreams from our students. So it looks different in the different grade levels, but we had students talk about maybe 2 things that they loved about home or about their relationship with their families. And then we also had them make a wish about something that they would like to improve on or change with their relationship with their families. We really wanted to hone in on listening and having the voice of our students heard. So this was a really fun way for our students to be able to discuss and talk with their parents about things that they love about their parents and their families, and then some things that maybe they would like to change or make better with their families. You can see down at the bottom right of the screen that this is an example of a first grade template for that. So they called it 2 stars and a wish. So that is something that's in the resource page as well. So this is a student talking about what her hopes and dreams are, and this is something that she shared with her mom at her second family teacher team.
How did you feel about sharing your hopes with your mom today at family teacher teams?
A little nervous and kind of happy.
And why is that?
Because I really just want to let her know how I feel when we're spending time together.
Very nice. And what was your hope for your mom that you shared on your balloon?
I want to go to the park 2 times a week so we can play soccer or baseball.
Very nice. And what does it mean to you to play with your mom?
Well, really, I just really want to play with her because she's always at work,
Oh,
and I just want to spend time with her.
very nice. Thank you, Madison. How did you?
So that was a 3rd grade student, and that's another example of the balloon was another example of how they shared their hopes and dreams with their families. And then the last progression piece to this is the 3rd family teacher teams. And at Meridian, we decided to have it be a showcase. So it wasn't a traditional family teacher teams. It didn't reflect what the family teacher team 1 and 2 did as far as the day. But we did do a showcase. And we invited families to come in, and we invited community stakeholders to come in. And the day was set up more to showcase and celebrate the work that the students had done all year. Some of the examples that different grade levels did were World of Work showcases. Some classrooms did writing celebrations, poetry slams, and sharing their learner profiles with their families that they had built that spring. And then one fun thing that we did for this time for the 3rd family teacher teams is we did what we called was a level up. So students were able to take their families into the grade level above and check out the rooms that they might be going into the next year. So for example, if you were a 1st grade student and your family was there, you got to take them into the 2nd grade classrooms and take a look at what the 2nd grade classrooms look like. Not focus on the teacher, of course, because the teachers change and adapt, but we really wanted to look at what the writing might look like at the end of 2nd grade and what the reading looks like at the end of 2nd grade and what the environment of a 2nd grade classroom looks like when you're coming in as a 1st grader after summertime. And families had a lot of great feedback about that. They loved being able to go in and see the classrooms ahead and really kind of introduce themselves and understand who the teachers are and all of that stuff. So we found that to be very powerful. And then the 5th graders, because they're not leveling up at Meridian, they were our 5th grade ambassadors. So they welcomed families, they helped them find classrooms that they were looking for, and were really a great piece of our community building during that level up time. And at the bottom right corner of the screen, you can see this is an example of our learner profile that some of the classes used as their showcase piece. All right, and then this is just a sample of a showcase. This is a kindergarten World of Work farmers market. So this is a showcase example that you might do at the end of the school year.
I want to thank all families for coming out today to our farmers market. These kids are engaged, they're having fun, they're taking on these jobs. And most of all, they're identifying their strengths, interests, and values, and how that will lead to a path to gainful employment.
What these kids are doing is fabulous. They're engaged, they're having a great time. I'm having a great time. I got a cupcake out of this.
I couldn't be more proud of the Meridian Kinder and TK students today. They have worked all year on learning about the RISEC, doing job rotations, and now showcasing everything that they've learned for their job. And a little shout out to the teachers who worked really hard to help them put this all together. It's never too early to start thinking about what your strengths and interests are. 5- and 6-year-olds have a lot of opinions and a lot of strengths and interests. So this is just an opportunity for them to think about, reflect, and look towards the future and think about what they want to do when they grow up. It probably will change, but maybe it won't.
Happy kids, healthy relationships on the path to gainful employment. I want to thank all.
So that was just a sample of an end of the year showcase. Now, when thinking about the how, of course, we have to think about how we're going to prep and plan. So the next couple slides, I'm just going to talk through some things to think about when you are preparing and planning for a family teacher teams. We discussed a lot about having a family teacher teams committee just to help prepare for that day and that event at your school. So when thinking about the family teacher teams committee, the first thing that I would suggest is connecting not only with the FACE office, but also with your community liaison. They are a great resource for reaching out to parents and making sure that we are opening doors for all families, no matter what language they speak or how recently they've come to our school. It's very important that we are able to invite every single family onto campus for family teacher teams. Our community liaison did a front load Zoom. So they front loaded parents and families about what family teacher teams would be about and what they would be hearing and learning. So we found that to be very beneficial to parents, especially who speak a second language at home. They were able to hear the information first in their home language, and then they were able to come to family teacher teams and really be able to sit and listen and understand the family teacher team's mission. Also, it's extremely important that teachers have collaboration time to prepare for family teacher teams. At our school, we used one of our 2-hour staff meeting days for them to prep and plan. We did have a set expectation that all classrooms would be participating in a Harmony Circle or a morning meetup with their families, that they were going to be using iReady data as well as another data point, and then as well as they needed to have a take-home activity. So those are the expectations that we set for our family teacher teams. Of course, they can be different, and you can adapt them for your own classroom or your own site. And then also during our PLC time, we allotted some time for teachers and grade level teams to meet and make sure that they were ready and prepared for their family teacher teams. Supplies are an integral part of family teacher teams. This here is a supply needs form. It's also linked in the resource page. But it's things like folders, papers, pens, binder rings, depending on what your home activity is. So really thinking about what you need to help your families be successful with their home activity and with the data and the goal setting. And then Print Shop has a lot of this already built out, but the goal sheets are triplicate, and it's something that you want to think about when preparing for family teacher teams, is to get these things ordered from Print Shop. And then we used our LPAC families, our PTA and PTO, and our school site council to kind of advertise the family teacher teams at our school. We wanted to make sure, along with our community liaison, we really wanted to make sure that we were able to disseminate the information to all of our families at school. And teachers put a lot of time and effort into making sure that all families were aware and were able to plan for family teacher teams. We created invites. There's lots of sample invites on the resource page. We use Parent Square, Class Dojo, Seesaw to invite our families. A lot of teachers scheduled, or excuse me, not teachers, our office staff scheduled, we put out an original message with our family teacher team's information that was translated into all the different languages. And then we also scheduled reminders. So we had a reminder each night before the family teacher teams came up. So for example, if the first grade family teacher teams was going to be on a Wednesday, we sent out a scheduled reminder on Tuesday that we were having family teacher teams in the morning. The timing, we did RSVP lists. Originally it was for COVID, but it ended up actually being a benefit because we collected data about students whose family came and students whose family didn't come. And we were able to collect iReady data and organize our data around that. So the RSVP sheet, if you're interested in collecting data about the families who join or not, is an essential piece of this. And then we also invited a lot of stakeholders. We invited community members, we invited ed services, and we wanted to make sure that anyone that was a part of our school community was invited to family teacher teams. So the timing for family teacher teams to plan for, we did it at the beginning of the day. So families were welcome to come in after they parked or dropped their students off right after arrival. And usually it lasted about an hour to an hour and a half, depending on the activities that you did and the amount of time that you spent doing your Harmony Circle and your performances. And then a large piece of this for the family teacher teams committee is making sure that you have interpreters lined up for those days. The FACE office is a fabulous resource for that. And we were able to plan ahead and really make sure that we filled out these pieces of information before the day got too close, because our FACE office has a lot of interpreters and a lot of liaisons, but they do have a lot of activities that they participate in. So we wanted to make sure that you want to make sure that you put in your interpretation needs early. And then another thing to think about, during that day, a lot of families bring siblings. And so what we did is we had a few of our noon duties, we paid them a little extra hours for that day, and they held a movie in the auditorium, and siblings were welcomed and invited to come in and watch the movie with them, so that families could really engage and build that relationship with the teachers. And then also the students, for the data piece of the family teacher teams, as well as the goal setting and the home activity, the students are not in the classroom. So we use noon duties, extended day staff, and Sports 549, our vendor, to take the students out of the classroom for that piece of the family teacher team. So that's definitely something you need to think about and plan for when prepping for family teacher teams. And then something that we talked about a lot is students whose families do not participate or come to family teacher teams. And we chose to pull in any support staff that we had on campus to help facilitate those conversations with students about their data and their growth and their progress. We used any extra hands that we had on campus to come and create that relationship and buddy up with the students in the classrooms. So for example, if a second grade student, their parents were working, they weren't able to come, we had a support staff in that classroom that could create a relationship and a partnership with that student, and they were really kind of their family for that day. All right, and now for teachers for prepping and planning. So thinking about a lot of different things for the day of in order to get them ready. So the supplies that you need, really thinking about what is your home activity going to be, what you will need for that. For example, in a kindergarten setting, if you are doing a letter sounds game, you're going to need flashcards. You might need binder rings to keep the flashcards on. You might need things to be laminated. So you really want to think about what supplies you're going to need for your families for family teacher team. Also, you want to think about your folder. What are you putting in your folder? So at Meridian, every single parent walked out of family teacher teams with a folder. It included many different things, but as a teacher or as a grade level, thinking about what you would like that to include. A quick comment on that, you don't want to include a million different things in your folder. You want to make sure that it is concise and one honed in activity that they can work on, a goal sheet, and the data that they're looking at, and making sure that it is simple so that it's something that all families can utilize at home. And then also teachers, you need to think about what is a data point that you would like to look at and share with your families. We're really looking at personalizing data for students. So you're thinking about things like Lexile, sight words, letter sounds. And you also would probably want to add in the iReady growth or the iReady data that you have from the first diagnostic. And then thinking about graphing and how you're going to visualize this for families and what you're going to put in your folder for families. And there are examples in the resource page in the family teacher teams folder. You're going to want to have an agenda for the day, thinking about what your invites will look like, how you're going to collect RSVPs from families, whether that's Class Dojo, Seesaw, Parent Square. What is your performance going to be? You saw an example of a performance earlier. And during your morning circle or harmony activity, what is your question going to be? And then what activity would you like the parents to do? So for example, I always ask in the first family teacher teams, what is your hopes and dreams for your child? So they would all share that out, and then they would find a parent partner and create a secret handshake. So you want to have a question that you're posing to them, and then also a quick activity or an icebreaker that they will do with other families. And then you want to make sure that you have your goal sheets prepared in your folder, and then also your home activity that you would like to do. So I have some examples of some of this stuff. So a folder example that you can see, this dad is looking over his folder for his student. So he has in here his data piece. He has a goal sheet where he has filled out what his goal is going to be for his child at home. He has his home resources. You can see here that he has a bookmark. The bookmark actually has reading comprehension questions that they can utilize at home when reading with their child. Some home resources might be flashcards, a new book to read. There's all different things that you can think about for your home resource or your home activity. And like I said before, we want to remember not to overwhelm the parents with things or stuff. We really want to make a connection and build that relationship with them and hand them one thing that they can work on at home with their families and one piece of data to really look at. So we really want to think about shifting our perspective around the data that we'll be using. So teachers, when you're prepping and planning and thinking about what data piece you would like to use, we really want to remember that we are personalizing data for students. This is not a comparison from one student to another. This is a comparison from one student to their benchmarks for the year and their goal for 1 year's growth. We really want to meet students where they are and where they come into class and help support them and their families and how to grow and progress throughout the year. So we want to make 1 year's growth. We want to help support students in making 1 year's growth and making sure that the home activity and the data that we're sharing and the goals that we're setting with these families is going to help facilitate that 1 year's growth and help support the parents in helping facilitate that 1 year's growth at home as well. This is another sample of an individual data piece that you could collect. This is centered around iReady. Thinking about keeping this once you filled it out and shared it with families so that you can fill out the diagnostic 2 score as well. And I like this data piece because it not only focuses on the score, but it also focuses on some test taking strategies and ways that you can really grow and learn your best doing iReady. So this is just another example of a way to collect data for iReady as well. This is an example agenda. So for the day of, this is something that you would share with families. So the agenda for this teacher was the student performance. After the student performance, the students would leave and then they would perform a morning circle with their family. So the goal was to build community. And then you would do family introductions, and then you are going to ask a question. For example, what are your hopes and dreams for your child this year or in the future? And then lastly, during that morning circle time, you would do a buddy up or an icebreaker with the families. Like I mentioned before, you might do a handshake. And that's a fun way for families to get to know each other and make connections between families as well. The next step would be your student progress or your data. After that, thinking about that student data, we're going to set goals, and you guys will be an integral part in your parents setting goals for their kiddos. And then after that, they're going to try on the home activity. So maybe it's a game, maybe it's questions that they're going to use for comprehension, but you're going to give them a chance to look it over and try it. So this is an example of, I believe this is a sample of a secret handshake or an icebreaker activity.
Anybody else want?
So those are just that's one kindergarten classroom of parents that were buddying up together and doing a handshake, and you can see some other people in the video as well. But it's a little nerve-wracking, but they enjoy it, and then they make friends and build connections between families as well, which is super important. And then this is an example of a home activity. This is a letter sounds activity. But this is a video that you would possibly share with your families to show them how they are going to do the activity at home, but then you're also going to give them time to try it on, either with an adult partner or possibly with their student, however you'd like to build that.
It's upside down. Yeah. No, what does this say? Like, yeah, what does this say? 2. You're on the train. Right, what does this here? You're on a train.
So you can see that those students, I was incorrect, those students are working on sight words. But this is something that you might prep for and plan to make a video so that your families can see how the activity would work at home.
upside down.
All right, so I think for the prep and plan part 3 of family teacher teams, the resources page is where you're going to come and take whatever you need. Please know that everything is made for you already. A lot of these things are already been ordered through the print shop, so they would recognize and understand what these things are. So at the very top of this page is the family teacher teams folder. So when you click that, you'll come right to the full folder. And then I just kind of broke it down for you here. There's a supply needs, the goal sheets, we have interpreter needs. A lot of these are forms and spreadsheets that you might want to utilize. So please, please, please use everything, take everything so that you can be successful with your family teacher teams, either at your school site or in your classroom. I think that this is a large part of getting ready for family teacher teams, and the fact that it's here and ready for you is such a great asset. And it's something that hopefully will take something off of your plate so that you can really focus on what your intention is for family teacher teams and how you're going to really build those relationships and that community at your school or in your classroom. So that's the end of part 3 today. I just want to thank you again for being here. I am available for questions and help and support at any time. And then always remember to go back to the second slide that has all of our emails and the ways that you can reach us. We're all open and excited about creating family teacher teams across the district and really creating those relationships across the district. So please don't hesitate to reach out. And in parts 4 and 5, you'll hear about the day of, as well as kind of collecting data once you've done your family teacher team. So thank you so much.